Hi, I'm Erin Meyer, and I'm here to talk to you tonight about how we can increase the diversity of our administration, faculty, and staff at Bristol Public Schools. I'm going to start by showing you some data from the 2019 EdSite data source. So it's comparing our student population with our educator population. So you can see that across the board, the numbers are quite skewed. So if you see Black or African American, it makes up 7% of our population, as compared to the state, it's about 12.7. And Hispanic or Latino is 31.2 versus the state 26.9. And then if you look down at the white population of educators, that's 53.7% of the total population of our students at Bristol Public Schools, which is close to the state of 51.7, or I'm sorry, 51.1. But if you compare that to the number of teachers, so in the state, the number of teachers that are white are 90%, up in the 90s. So 94.7 in the district and 90.4 in the state, and so on. So what this data shows us is that the number of minority educators in Bristol School District is lower than the state average, but more importantly, it's not a representation of our student population. So what are some things that we as Bristol Public Schools can do to increase the diversity of our administrators, faculty, and staff? So here are some of the research on recruitment. So the research on recruitment, on screening, interviewing, and hiring, a lot of it is overlapping. So a lot of what it says is to work with colleges in the area, historically minority colleges in the area, to publicize our stance or vision on inclusion and diversity as a district. Include those very descriptive job descriptions on our, wherever it is that we're posting our job postings, and to know and understand the talent pool we already have, so you can kind of hire from within, and all those. There's a couple things that are repeating here. The research on mentoring, one of the key factors in mentoring is mentoring and retention, is that teachers or educators and administrators of minority backgrounds tend to feel isolated, and they often leave the profession much sooner than the non-minority educators and administrators. And that is because what has been reported of feelings of isolation, there's not a lot of networking. So that plays into role, or we bring that into part of our short-term and long-term plan. So the short-term strategies that we could use to try to increase our diversity would first be to assess where the current faculty and staff and administration is in regards to their beliefs on school and district climate and cultural proficiency. So you can't really expect people to change or to develop if you don't know where they're at. So first, you can take a reading on where districts or individuals within the district are, and then you can use that information to develop a professional development to build a more culturally proficient administration, faculty, and staff. No one is going to want to work in a district that is not culturally proficient. So that would be something that we definitely need to focus on short term. And then once that is, or in the midst of doing that, or meanwhile, we can create a collective vision. So collectively, the district leadership, faculty, and staff create a district vision focused around diversity and inclusion. Once you've created that vision, and I know that our district has a vision in regards to diversity and inclusion, that vision needs to be forefront on the district website as well as the school's website. In a lot of the research I was doing for Bristol Public Schools, I couldn't find our vision very easily, and I know we have one. So it wasn't, it could almost be a part of our banner for our school webpage or our district webpage. Again, publishing the vision is, letting people know, or potential applicants know where we stand. And then we want to attract culturally diverse candidates. And to do that, one of the research says to put some effort into our job descriptions and our job titles. So attract more culturally diverse candidates by including questions that require candidates to illustrate their cultural proficiency as a screening process. So that's kind of a two-part attract, right? So to change our job descriptions, but then again, as part of our application process, whether it be the first step, your initial application, or in your initial interview, to include in there to find out where the candidates stand on cultural proficiency, how they would include cultural diversity or incorporate culture into their teaching or into their being an administrator, so into their leading of individuals. That could be a first step to developing a more culturally diverse staff. Those are short-term goals. Another thing that I was reading in some of the research was that you can tell a lot about a district about on where they spend their money for professional development. And I think that's going to be really important if we want the public to believe that, or potential candidates to believe that we care about cultural proficiency and diversity and inclusion, then that needs to be where we're spending the most money to develop the people that we already have. And then long-term goals to continue to develop relationships among minority colleges and universities and education prep programs to build stronger pathways for culturally diverse educators. So that's something we already do, but to just kind of build that, maybe expand that beyond Connecticut and take it into New England, into our neighboring states, that could be helpful to build better connections with the more urban districts by down in Bridgeport and those areas to attract more diverse candidates. We can incorporate all those short-term strategies into our district improvement plan or action plan. Those short-term strategies are going to turn things around just a little bit, but that need to be a part of our long-term plan so it's ongoing, so it doesn't just stop in a couple of years. And then we need to establish a diverse team that serves as a part of the screening and interviewing committee. So a lot of the research said, you don't have to use the same people all the time, but if you have a big pool of people that are culturally proficient that you can pick from based on who you're interviewing, if you're interviewing a science teacher or a new administrator, but you have all of these people that have shown that they are culturally proficient, then you should have a good committee there to sit on an interview panel or committee to help screen potential candidates. So all of those things are ways that we can work to improve or increase our cultural proficiency. Cultural proficiency and cultural diversity at Bristol Public Schools. I hope that's helpful. These are my references. Okay, have a good night.